Welcome to CC Gurukul Live Lectures. Today I am going to start with a new series called Outcome Based Education. Outcome Based Education is a recent development in the quality assurance. Now you must have seen that earlier the teaching pedagogies etc. were very monotonous. The teacher used to come in the class, teach the students, and whether they have understood or not in terms of the practicalities of life, in terms of employability, there was a complete disconnect of education and academia and industry. But owing to the outcome based education, there is a paradigm shift from a comfort zone, that is the outcome based education is about preparing the students for life and not simply getting them ready for the college or employment. Now, as far as the paradigm shift is concerned, the teachers used to teach traditionally in a very different pedagogies, and the student learning, as far as the present outcome based learning is concerned, we are very active in this. There is a taxonomy of the teaching pedagogies. What should the student learn, how and why is all about OBE, that is outcome based education. These lines are not enough to complete the meaning of outcome based education. That is, it starts from what the students should learn, what pedagogies to be used, why they have to understand and educate on relating to that particular subject, what is the outcome of doing a particular degree or a program or a diploma. If you are able to answer these questions, we are on the outcome based education paradigm. Otherwise, there is a big question mark. And definitely, if you are able to answer these questions about how to learn, why to learn, what technology has to be used, what is the employability paradigm of the outcome based education, that means we are on the right track. And definitely, on the contrary, the traditional pedagogies were very different and they were not up to the mark. Let us accept all this. And there is such a welcome step taken by our education minister, and we are on to a new education policy under which UGC has passed to all the higher education institute that they have to adopt wholeheartedly the outcome based education. The content, the method, everywhere it is the same for all the higher education institute, be it school, be it colleges, be it any educational institute. But yes, when it comes to the outcome based education, the content, the method and the employability issues etc., they have to sync with each other. Otherwise, there is no concept of adopting this particular framework. Now, let me give you under this backdrop the definitional aspect of OBE, that is outcome based education. A clearly focusing and organizing everything in the educational system around the essentials for all the students to do successfully at the end of their learning experiences is all about OBE. Now, let me give you a complete understanding of this definition, and let me break this definition in small parts so that I am able to make myself very clear about what OBE is all about. Number one, it is a clear focusing paradigm. That means you have to focus your programs, your learning pedagogies in a very clear way, and owing to which you have to organize everything for the educational institution around the essentials for the students to do successfully at the end of their learning experience. For example, they are owing to some particular course, so they have to be very clear about what is the end outcomes of this, what are they going to achieve out of this, and what is the outcome of education of that particular course which they have adopted. Now, let me give you another definition of outcome based education. Today's lecture is an overview of outcome based education, and the series would talk about each and every paradigm in detail so that you have a complete insight about this new outcome based education which has recently been adopted by University Grant Commission, and a circular has been issued to all the educational institute to adopt the outcome based education. Now coming on to another definition. Outcome based education is a process that involves the restructuring of curriculum, assessment and reporting practices in education to reflect and mastery rather than accumulation of the course credits. This definition was given by Tucker in 2004 and it is such a meaningful definition. So let us have a look on what the definition is all about. Number 1, outcome based education is basically, it involves a restructuring of curriculum. That means what? The curriculum which was adopted in the yesteryears was completely good. We have no doubts upon the curriculum aspects. But yes, under the new paradigm shift, that is adoption of the outcome based education, we have to restructure our curriculum so that we are able to give what the students want for the employability. That means we have actually embedded the applied part, that is whether they will be able to have the employment after the course is over and their learning experiences are having a straight spillover and advantage onto their employability or not. Assessment and reporting practices in education to reflect the achievement of high order learning and mastery rather than the accumulation of course credits. So this is for my dear students. Just keep in mind that you are into a new system, not because of just increasing your credits or just passing on a degree or adding on a paper with you. The idea of OBE has a special effort for the teachers also. The teachers have to incorporate their practical experiences in terms of having a hands-on experience, that what in reality after the course is over or after the diploma is over, what are they going to take as far as the practical paradigms of employability is concerned. That is, you have to keep some kind of a logic in mind. That is, for example, if you're going to go in for architecture, what specific aspects an architect has to face in reality? The load effect, the pillars effect, the interior effect, the exterior effect, what material is good for the earthquake to be used to make the building earthproof, etc. So you have to actually have a brainstorming session before the curriculum designing is done and actually connecting it with the practical experiences. So it is like a very, very important exposure for the student as well as for a teacher also. The student and the teacher are in a very win-win situation when you talk about the outcome based education system. There is a complete learning paradigm for the teachers and a complete learning paradigm for the students. So let me give you some kind of important aspect, that is, if we have adopted this outcome based education framework, so what specific changes are required in the methods of assessment? Like, I'll give an example. If you are out from a software degree and the student has got a degree of software engineer, and immediately after say 2 months he gets a job of a software engineer. So the boss calls the person that please make a software for the payroll system of the employees, or make a software for the attendance, or make a software for X issue or Y issue. So what is the end result? The end result would be that the student is going to say, sir, we were not taught in our course how to design a software. So here comes the important embedding of the outcome based education framework. So that means right from entering into a particular degree and giving him a hands-on experience of what actually he has to do is called as OBE. That is, whether he is able to achieve the outcomes, whether he is be able to achieve the goals or not. So this is very, very important. On what paradigms, on what practices, on what features, on what factors his assessment is going to be is a big question mark. Since it's a new framework for every one of us, so we have to put our heart and soul and change the methods of assessment also accordingly. If you want to change the student learning, change the method of assessment. This was given by the Sutherland in 2000. So this particular quote is so important and is very close to my heart. because we have been teaching the students from a quite almost a 3-decade time. So what we have seen, the highs and the lows and the real actual time experience, that what has to be given to the student to make an actual learning for him. So changing the method of assessment, evaluation is definitely going to change and open his mindset. He will be altogether in a thinking mode, in a research mode, in an experimental mode, in an experiential mode, in a learning mode, and eventuality is that he is now more learned person who is prepared for tomorrow. So just understand that just by changing the methods of assessment and the overall criteria for evaluation of the student, what are we giving to the students? We are building the nation, we are preparing the student for tomorrow, adopting this new paradigm. So let me give you now the goal of outcome-based education. The outcome-based education, as the name suggests, depends on the outcomes and not the inputs. The outcomes in OBE are expected to be measurable. In fact, each educational institute can state its own outcomes, and the ultimate goal is to ensure that there is a correlation between the education and employability. So now I think I have made myself very, very clear in terms of giving you the conceptual framework of outcome-based education. When you are able to have a very good connect, a close-knit connect, a direct connect between the education and employability, that means the goal of outcome-based education is complete. So this is how we have to see, and this is how we have to frame the teaching pedagogies, the syllabi, the evaluation process, so that the eventual result or the actual result and the ultimate goal of ensuring that there is a correlation between the education and employability is complete. If you're able to achieve this goal, that means the goal of outcome-based education is achieved. Now there is a question which comes to mind of everyone, that why do we make a paradigm shift between the traditional way of learning and the outcome-based learning teaching? So the answer is very, very clear, and I'll make myself more clear by answering this question, that why are we using the outcome-based teaching learning? Number one, the basic answer which I can give you to this is that it is more logical, it is more effective, and actually if you ask me, both the teachers and the students find it more satisfying than the traditional teaching. So this is a very beautiful answer to why we are using the open book and basically the outcome-based teaching learning process. So in this, even if the open book test is given, still the students have to apply the logic. The students have to be very, very having a research bent of mind, and they will explore, they will find out, they will go to the libraries, the e-libraries, the journals, and able to find out what is what. So this this is a very, very clear indication and the clear result of adopting the OBTL, that is the outcome-based teaching learning process, owing to two main reasons. One, it is more logical in nature. It gives more logic that are we going in a right direction? If we do this course, is my student able to get a good job? So we are able to connect the education to the employability in a very, very logical and effective manner. And in fact, it is good for both, for the teachers and for the students. Why for the teachers? Because the teachers are into a very different bent of mind, because they have to give a clear justification to their teaching learning and enhance their teaching learning pedagogies, enrich their teaching chapters, so that when the students are out of the institute, they remember the teacher, because the teacher has given them the best. The teacher has given them a hands-on experience, some kind of simulation activities were given to them, so that they are able to have the actual learning experience. For example, you are giving the students how to drive a car. So if you give a software in which the sensors are given, the steering is given, so the turns, the speed and the gears and everything will be very, very clear to the student, because you are giving a holistic and an open environment of the teaching to the students. So which is definitely very satisfying for both. Why? Because the teacher's main ornaments and the main aspects of the teacher by which the teacher feels happy is when the student is happy. So if you want to have a very enriching and a good learning experience for the students also, so adopt this method of outcome based teaching learning process, which is more logical, more effective for teachers, as I've already stated. Why it is good for a student? Because the students are touching the actual practical aspects of this and find it more satisfying, more educating and more connecting with the employability. So this is why we use the OBTL, that is the outcome based teaching learning. Now coming on to another, it is beneficial for the student possibly even more than teachers. Why? Because it is giving you the intended learning objectives. You are telling them precisely that not only what you are supposed to be learning, but how and for what level and to what standards. Understand the main aspects which I have stated now. Just to give a reiteration of what I said earlier, the benefit for the student is possibly more than the teachers, because what intended learning objectives are there. We are precisely explaining the students that this is how and this is what you have to learn, and this level of learning is required, how it is required and to what extent it is required. That is, you are specifying the benchmarking standards also for the students, so that when they actually face the reality, there is no absolutely issue. So for these reasons, the OBTL, that is the outcome based teaching learning, is used in university teaching in several countries, in UK, in Hong Kong, in Europe, and it definitely assures us a quite rise in the quality assurance to the higher education institutes, which is the need of today. By the announcement of the new education policy, whether it is a private institute, a public institute, or whatever institute is there which is recognized by University Grant Commission, we are on the same standards which we have to achieve. So having adopted this, we will be able to achieve the real essence of new education policy. We will have a new learning framework for teachers and new learning framework for the students as well. Now it is now widely recognized that effective teaching and assessment requires an aligned system. Now coming on to what aligned system is all about is very, very important for you to understand. There has to be a complete syncing that for example in education, when you enter an educational institute, so the subject which is taught as a theory and what the practical paradigms, there is a complete disconnect. So that means we are not aligning with the system. Maybe it was adopted and it was moving on for last 34 years, the same education policy was followed, but now the things have actually taken a very important change, a required change, and this change is going to actually change the complete landscape of the education system, not only in India, but our students will have a very good exposure in global scenario also, because we are learning what they are already learning for last so many years. So maybe it is it is good to be late than never. So adopting this new paradigm shift, it is going to be the teaching learning system is going to be very effective. The assessment etc., they have also been aligned with the system, and there is more lot to be done. The road is less traveled, although there are many important announcements which have been made by the Government of India and by the University Grant Commission, and important announcements are still taking place time and again to enrich, to better the system as far as the higher education institution is concerned. So the UGC is strongly encouraging the universities to adopt this teaching learning system, which is outcome based. If we are adopting this, that means we are on the right track, we are enhancing the teaching learning process, and we are able to do justice to our students, because the eventual and the ultimate aim of education is employability. If you are able to do that, that means our nation is expanding, our nation is moving on a right track towards the growth and development of the nation. Because if the education sector is enriched, the whole nation is enriched, because education builds the the nation. Now, since we have started with the new series, so each and every aspect of outcome based teaching learning needs to be elaborated. So now my next topic is that how the traditional teaching was different with the new paradigm shift, that is the outcome based teaching learning system. Now, what is OBTL? I have just explained you, that is the outcome based teaching learning process. So, what is OBTL and how does it different from a traditional teaching system? How the assessment was different is very, very important to understand. Now, traditionally, the teachers used to plan their teaching by asking a question: what topics or content do I teach? What teaching methods do I use? How do I assess to see if the students have taken on board and what I have taught them? So, this was traditionally very, very simple pedagogies which were adopted for last 34 years, and we were dragging the system, not making enriched, etc. But yes, opening of this kind of a teaching learning system has actually changed the landscape of education system in India. Teaching here is conceived as a process of transmitting the content to the students. So, the method tend to be expository and assessment focused on checking how well the message has been received. Hence, the common use of the lectures and the demonstrations with the tutorials for the clarification and exams that rely on the reporting practices. This was all about the traditional teaching system. Let me give you briefly the key points of what the traditional teaching system was all about. In the traditional teaching system, the topics were given to the students. The teacher used to come in the class, deliver a lecture, and just the whatever the teacher knows used to be transmitted onto the students. To check whether the students have actually taken this nicely or not, there was an examination system, and still the examination system was very, very to the point, whatever was taught in the class, and the students were used to assessed, focusing on just checking on the message, whether the message which was given by the teacher has been received by the students or not. So, hence the focus was on just the lectures and demonstrations with some tutorials, or the tutorial were some problem taking classes, and the clarification was given to the students, but not extra deeds and efforts were done on the either ends. So, the exams was just the reporting back, or just giving what the students were taught in the class. But this new system of OBTL, that is the outcome based teaching learning, on the other hand, is based on the questions like, what do I intend my students to be able to do after my teaching and they couldn't do before, and to what standard? So, this is the main question which wrecks our mind under the OBTL. Whether whatever I want my students to become, what special skills I want to impart, and after the course is over, whether they will be able to understand the practical paradigms. So, what do I intend? That is, the intended teaching objectives have to be kept in mind, and what the students are able to do it. So, how do I supply the teaching learning activities, and how do I assess them? So, these questions are very, very important for you to understand as a system.